Hi, welcome to episode 33 of the American Tributaries podcast, where to break out of the bubbles we've all been living in these last few years, we're using modern technology to explore the various currents of people in our great country, kind of like a 21st century Lewis and Clark journey. I'm your host, Michael Whidden, and thank you for joining me in this exploration of America. If you haven't already done so, please follow the podcast or subscribe on whatever platform you're using. Give us a positive rating or a thumbs up on this particular episode, and most importantly, if you enjoy the show, please let your friends and family know on social media. Before we start today's conversation, I'm proud to say that episode 33 is sponsored by American Tributaries Travel, which is the company I formed in June to take the spirit of this podcast and put it on the ground and get high schoolers in our country to travel more within our country. Please check out americantributaries.com for more details. Okay, now on for today's conversation. I am very grateful to be joined by Sally Curci. Sally lives in New Jersey and is co-founder with her husband Mike of the Shining Stars Network, which is a not-for-profit dedicated to providing a platform for folks in the special needs community to showcase their performing arts talents in an inclusive environment. Sally and I were connected by a mutual friend, Frank Vito, who happens to have also been a guest on episode 3 of this podcast. So thank you very much to Frank for connecting us, and thank you very much, Sally, for joining me on the show. How are you doing, and could you share a bit of your story?
Happy to be here. Well, it all started 10 years ago. We just celebrated our 10th anniversary. It was just about giving people with special needs an opportunity to truly shine. They deserve as much as anybody. And it started with about 15 residents from Cranford who were in the school system. And we had our shows in a middle school, and we have about 45 performers now. And we are now at
Wow.
Union County Performing Arts Center with a crowd of over 1,000 pre-pandemic. So we've grown a lot over the years, and we hope to keep it going for many years to come.
Wow. Madison Square Garden, here you come.
Now there we go.
And how, what's the size of the audience from way back then to now?
We started with about 200,
Mm-hmm.
maybe about 200, and we've grown to about 1,000 for performance.
Okay. Wow.
Yes, it's a one night only. Get it in, and it's been pretty amazing trek. Yeah, the last 10 years for sure.
That's great. And what's your connection to? I mean, I guess both the arts and to the special needs community.
So I do have two children. Well, they're actually adults now, young adults with special needs. My son Brian is on the autism spectrum, and he's now in college in a college program and doing great. And my daughter Courtney has Down syndrome, and she is 20. And so that basically, I guess, was the catalyst behind this. I also now work at a special needs high school for kids with on the autism spectrum with some behavioral challenges, some of them. Um, and I've just always been a lover of the performing arts. I don't have a formal background in performing arts, but I was always a dancer, and I sang and I was in the plays. And my daughter has a more of a theatrical background. And she's been performing arts since she was little. So it's just a combination of the passions and profession and melding together and to give I call them kids because they'll always
Yeah.
be my kids. I
Yeah.
consider them all my kids, and I treat them
Yeah.
as if they are.
Yeah.
Like to give them an opportunity to truly shine, to show their amazing talents.
And is it, I guess, is it hard? I mean, I guess in many respects, I would think that like just asking anybody to perform is going to be a challenge. Did you find it was a challenge to get a lot, all the kids, all of the initial performers to come on? And like, what's it been like since then?
We definitely had some challenges, but I have to be honest with you. I think it was more of a challenge with the parents and trying to get to sell them that, hey, they can do it. They kind of looked at me perplexed, like, oh yeah, you're going to get my kid to do that. I'm like, yeah, and we did. But I have a saying over the years that they come in like lambs and they go out like lions, because
Ah,
some of them come in very shy and withdrawn, and then by the end of the season, they become more confident, and their heads gotten bigger, and it's great. And and that's what it's all about. It's about, I think I had told you prior that it's all about, our mission statement is increasing self-esteem through the performing arts. And
Yeah.
to me, it's all about developing that confidence and that carrying that over to other areas of their life.
And I guess, and what, like, do you have any like kind of like memorable like success stories for like for people who were like reluctant to go on and then just kind of really shined in the spotlight and have taken that momentum on into the rest of their lives?
Well, my son is a prime example of that. He was the only participant the first year that did not do his own act. He was just too shy. So he did participate in the group numbers. And then each year, the next year, he did a duet, and then he did a solo. And now he is in college doing all kinds of things on his own. It's just amazing, the journey. We have our MC, Ryan Fay, ended up doing a radio broadcast at his home school at the time in middle school. He's very shy outside of on stage, but he came out of his shell and he started participating on air, doing like morning announcements, and then he also helped with our big high school dance for the Cranford senior year. He helped gather all the kids together, and he's actually one of our mentors now. He's kind of one of our buddies in training. So one of the things we like to do is kids that come up through the program, we'd like to use them as helpers to
Mhm.
help out the younger ones. So it's
Wow.
really, really been awesome.
And does how does it go? How does it impact? I guess either building like kind of like I guess like bridges like within like amongst all of the kids that are performing and with like folks that aren't like that aren't like special needs. Like you said, you have buddies who kind of help out and like people in the community who maybe have no connection otherwise. Like has there been any? Have you seen any progress in that as well?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, so we've been doing this a while now, and I've known the special needs kids for a long time that have been with us. But I really feel like at this point, it's helping out the buddies more than anybody else. So most of them are high school mentors who come to be, mentors to our special needs participants. But sometimes I'm wondering who's mentoring who and who gets more out of it, because it really is a growth opportunity for them as well. And it also gives them an opportunity to be on stage. A lot of them would not have the opportunity to be on stage otherwise. And yeah, it's really inclusion.
Yeah.
They really work well together. Sometimes I'm telling some of our participants, "Oh, can you help them with the dance?" Yeah.
Uh,
So it's really
Wh-
great.
what kind of impact do you see them having on their I guess the buddies that are helping out like
Well, again, a lot of them come in very quiet, unsure of themselves. It really helps develop their self esteem. They end up writing about their experience, for their college essay. They ask me for references. I think, and then we have a few that may perhaps come into it to look for hours, volunteer hours, but then they go far beyond their hours, and so they may not come into it with a reason like I want to work this particular group, but they end up loving it and have such compassion. They do all our extra activities on the side as well, and they're just incredible. I'm speechless because I really feel like it impacts them tremendously throughout the rest of their life. They
yeah.
go on to volunteer in college and maybe future Special Olympic activities or things of that nature. Best buddies.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, and we had talked about that before about how, yeah, that was something I was involved with. Do you find that you're, I guess, correcting or like fixing like misunderstandings about folks in the special needs when you're introducing the kids to them, or just kind of like introducing them to something totally new, like when you're
Well,
making these connections?
well, it's interesting, regarding the buddies. One of our They kind of just come in. We never had a formal training for them, and they would just come in. It would be like learning right on the spot. And they would kind of be shy, and we would just throw them in there, and it actually works out really great for most of them. But we usually meet beforehand, before every rehearsal and afterwards, to talk about what went well, what didn't, how can we improve. And one of our buddies, who was a little hesitant in the beginning, but I reeled her in, She was eighth grade at the time when she started, but she is now doing her cold project for Girl Scouts, and she is creating a manual for the buddies where we're going to have different diagnoses and how to handle certain situations. And so that is her goal project, which is
Hmm.
really awesome. So it'll give the buddies a little background into how to best work with our special needs participants.
Yeah. Um, and how old are the various participants? Like youngest to oldest?
So they range. They've definitely been growing over the years. They're about the same age as my children, which are 2024. So I would say the youngest we have right now is about 14, and we go up to about 35, 36. But basically, the minimum age to participate is 12, and you can participate for the rest of your life if you like.
You're gonna have to be around for a while. There's no retirement for you.
Yeah, exactly. I started working two full jobs at age 50. So
That's a lot. Can just for the sake of the listeners, can you? I guess more specifically describe like what it means to be in the special needs community.
So I think one of the biggest misunderstanding is, well, it's like anything, fear of the unknown. Like when we did our first show, people didn't know what to expect. They didn't know, they were just going to one of those, those kid talent shows, blah, 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 right? So I think their expectations were were not that high. So my role as a professional and my theory as a professional and as a parent of two people with special needs is always set the expectations high and then adjust accordingly. And if we work hard, we're dedicated, and we have the desire, it's amazing what they can accomplish, just like anyone else, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing what they can accomplish. So when the audience first started coming to our shows, they didn't really know what to expect. The MC was so funny, but they didn't know if they should laugh at him because were they being disrespectful? Did they think they were making fun? And then by the intermission, they were all right on board with him.
Mm.
So once we get the audience to come to the first show, we got them hooked. And they walk out like wow, I had no idea. So if there's anything that a message I'd like to convey is that everyone is capable and everyone has talents and everyone deserves a chance to shine and to be able to show those talents. So
So,
never underestimate.
yeah, no, I think one of the great like I guess like things you can do to like hold somebody back is to like have low expectations.
And definitely, and as a parent and a professional as well, that we want our kids to be as independent as possible. Because guess what? We're getting older, and the more they can do on their own, the less that we have to do for them, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
good for them and it's good for us. So that's one of the harder things to have to make sure that's part of the training is when we train our buddies is don't do for them. You can help guide them, but don't do for them. And sometimes
Mhm.
that can be really hard in any profession because you feel
Yeah.
like you have to do in order to be, um, needed, and that's really not the case.
Yeah. Um, how often do you have it? Do you have just one annual show, or is it more periodically than that?
So originally, our first year in the beginning, we just had a big spring show. But then, of course, things grow. The kids want more. They got the juice. They just want more. They got the bug. So now we went from one show to two shows. Our big show is still our annual spring show, which is held in May at UC Pack. Now, and then we have an annual Christmas show. So we've been doing that for about 5 years now. I think we're going into our sixth season, actually. So it's called the Christmas Spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
And we have some things we do every year. A lot of people look forward to our 12 Days of Christmas, where it's audience participation. And that's, I think, one of the things that distinguishes our shows from other shows. We really get the audience involved. We want you singing, dancing, laughing, crying. And the 12 Days of Christmas is one of those acts that we actually hand out signs, and they get assigned, they get one of the numbers, and then literally it becomes a competition. And then the crowd keeps growing and growing, with participation in that number. Anyway, so we have a spring show, a Christmas show, and we also run a 2-week camp in the summer, the last two
Wow.
weeks in August, when most of the schools' special needs programs are not, they're done for the summer.
Mhm.
And that's when my daughter and I both have off. So we said, why don't we do a camp? And it's been doing quite well. We've been, again, about 6 years now.
You
Yeah.
sound
And then we do little things in between.
yeah.
We
You're,
do, like, if someone wants us to come perform, we've done things for Cranford. We've sang at the Christmas lighting ceremony for Cranford. We have a Shining Stars Ambassador program where we play local police officers and firemen, just kind of a feel good, friendly basketball game. Again, they are
Mhm.
shocked at how talented our kids are on the basketball court.
Yeah.
And then some of our performers, if they don't want to play ball, they perform at halftime.
Uh-huh.
And again, they're blown away with how talented these kids are.
Yeah. So like for the performance, are you guys doing is I guess most of the like when you do the final performance, how much of that is reflective of like rehearsals that you guys are doing together, and how much of that is them kind of at home practicing in front of the mirror or with family or something?
So definitely, we rehearse for the spring show. We rehearse about 4 months, 2 days a week for 2 hours, between an
That's
hour and a half
serious.
and 2 hours. And then Tech Week, we're there every night at the theater. For our Christmas show, it's a little less intense. We rehearse for about 2.5 months. So most of it is done, the core is done at rehearsals, but we put up a Google Classroom. We have the videos of the dances, and they can access that at any time. And we encourage them to do that so they can practice on their own at home.
Mhm.
You can always tell the
And
ones that do and don't. And we are not about who is the best. We are all about who's giving the best effort and who is creating positivity and just giving it their all.
yeah. You were saying that like some people, audience members, didn't know in the beginning maybe how to react to certain things, and like just me as I was thinking about it, like putting myself in that situation, like my sense would be and, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it almost be like you got to read the emotions of the person on the stage. Like if they're having fun with it, you kind of you take that emotional cue. But if they look like they're stammering or struggling, then you would take that cue. Is that my correct
Yeah,
like kind of
kind of. But
way to
in the
think about it?
beginning, I think with the MC, they didn't want to feel like they were making fun of him. They're laughing with him, not at him.
Right, right, right.
Yeah, but then they developed that rapport and trust, and then he just slapped it right back at them, and they just laughed
Uh-huh.
hysterically. They couldn't hold the laughter in.
Really?
He's amazing, amazing talent. I take no credit for him except for discovering him. I at a my son's 14-year-old birthday party, a karaoke. I'm like, you are going to be our MC. And 10 years later, he's still our MC.
Do you ever have anybody go rogue?
Oh yes, we have. Well, his twin brother always tries to steal the show from him.
Really?
And I've always wanted to play them against, not against each other, but like, one pretending to be the other, but they get a little jealous of each other's roles, so that doesn't always work. But it's kind of wonderful when his twin brother just pops out on stage, and then it's like a comedic act, like get back on stage, get back behind the curtain. You have to come to one of our shows. You just have to see it to believe it.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. Um, and I guess what have like what how has this impacted you? I mean, over the 10 years. I mean, how do you think you've like changed, or what insights have you gained?
Wow, that's a great question. Um, I think I've also become a lot more confident. In the beginning, like little things. I used to not be able to watch the recordings of the show because I would be so critical. Why did we do this? And why did that person do this? And it was, why wasn't the camera there? So, but
Mm,
now I've become much more relaxed. I've learned that it's more the journey, and that's come with maturity, not the destination. But it is quite the high after the show, and it's more about how they feel about themselves. So it's like I said, it's not the end product, it's not the destination, it's the journey along the way. And if they feel good about themselves, I've done my job, which is awesome. If a kid had the best performance but does not internalize it like that, then I have an issue. You know what I mean? And I feel like I've disappointed and I've let that person down. But that does not happen very often.
Right.
Them just going out there, giving the best performance they can, and feeling good about it, and then going to their job the next day or going to school that day and feeling so good that they're doing well in school and they're doing well on the job. That's what it's all about. And then
Yeah.
we have certain people have come through the program and they may feel like they've somewhat outgrown it. And that's fine too, because guess what? We've done our job. They feel good. They feel confident. I'm ready to move on to other things, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Although we
Um.
don't have too many of those.
well,
But it's great. They
it
like
seems like
hanging
that.
out.
Yeah. Well, it seems like there's many opportunities for people to kind of grow or challenge themselves. So it would be hard to outgrow.
Absolutely. They go on to do other theater programs, sometimes in conjunction with us, other times they've moved on, which is incredible.
Yeah. Um. Excuse me. What like do they? I guess for the are they mostly are they? Is it more like is it acting? Is it singing? Is it musical instruments? Is it talent? Is it a little bit of everything?
Yeah, so I always wanted to have a little bit more acting, but what our niche has really become a one night variety show. We have usually have themes. We've done music through the decades. We've done Broadway. We've done Disney. We've done World Tour was postponed COVID. We're hope to bring it back. We did the Greatest Show, which is truly, I believe, our greatest show. As a matter of fact, the directors from Paper Mill were there, and right after that, they wanted to bring the Greatest Show to Paper Mill Playhouse,
Uh,
which we were supposed to do in March of 2020.
uh,
Obviously, that got canceled, but
yeah.
postponed, and we're hoping to be back next year.
Oh wow, it'll be
We
even
just
busier
had
for you.
we just had an outdoor cabaret at Paper Mill, and they actually
Really?
told us it was their biggest draw and it was their most successful cabaret. So we were
Wow.
really, really happy with that. It was a beautiful night. It was just a beautiful evening. Gave us again, give them a platform to shine. We had dinner. It was spectacular. Yes.
Yeah. Where would you like the I guess the your organization to be like 10 years from now?
Great questions as well. Um, so maybe when I retire, maybe my daughter and my husband, if we do want to continue to grow, and our mission is to be able to provide, maybe become a full time agency, but to be able to employ the people who come through our program, because everyone needs to feel successful and they
Yeah.
need to earn a living.
Yeah.
And so the ultimate goal, I think, for us is to be able to provide a service where we can employ the people who come through our program
Yeah.
and deliver the same type of things as we're doing now, but on a more permanent and full time basis.
So for the I guess for the performers, they do their performance, they feel good. They have other things going on in their lives. Like what else are they doing when they're not doing? What kind of like job opportunities are there for them?
Well, for under 21 performers, they are in school full time. So anyone with special needs can get a free and appropriate education until they're 21. After that, unfortunately, there's a big gap in services, especially during COVID. So during COVID, that was one of the things we did was we actually offered a virtual program for a year. We had live online shows. So there is a huge gap in services before 21 and after 21. Some of them go on to get jobs or part time jobs based on financial limitations you can have. And there's a lot of restrictions. There are ways around it, but most of our people probably work part time. So there's still a lot of time in their schedule for other activities if warranted, or if they can find them. The problem is there's a lot of waiting lists. There's not enough opportunities available.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely a niche that needs to be filled with that 21 over market. Some of them, work part time. Some of them are in day programs. Some do a combination of both, supported employment. So, like I said, there's definitely a niche for this that needs to be filled. More and more people need programming.
Yeah. What kind of jobs? I guess it may, these are maybe related questions. Like, what kind of jobs do they can they flourish in, or feel like do the best in, or what kind of skills do you think they have that just aren't being utilized currently? I guess in the overall like labor market.
Well, I think, a lot of people in the autism spectrum, I don't like to generalize because every
Yeah, yeah,
individual is
yeah.
different,
No, for
but
sure, for sure.
they like repetitive type activities. So
Hmm.
they're really good at jobs that require like those repetitive skills and activities because the rest of us may get bored more easily than some people on the spectrum. And people with other disabilities like Down syndrome and some other disabilities are very social creatures, so they might be better in an environment where there's a lot of people around and they can greet people. But
Hmm.
everyone has value, and everyone should have a worth to that value. They should be paid for those services, I believe.
Yeah. It's funny that and I think the way you're kind of, I think, raised to think about work, it's like, oh, you got to work, like it's a bad thing, and like the way you're describing is like really employment is as much a social activity as it is anything. I mean,
Well, yeah,
maybe
it's a
not just for them,
feeling
but
of
for really for
self
all of
worth,
us. Yeah,
right?
like for all
Social.
of
Yes,
us.
I mean, we're most of us are very social beings, and earning a paycheck makes you feel valuable and worthy. So if you feel worthy, you're going to feel confident, and that's
Right.
going to develop into other areas of your life as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's like what have you like heard from families where like somebody participated and all of a sudden they were able to do something they hadn't been able to do before in the working world or with their family?
Yes, I mean, I one parent said that there's no way you're going to get my son up on stage, and she was like, "Oh my god!" She said, "My son is like a different person now." Because he felt so good. He overcame his fear and felt so good with what he was doing on stage that he's now like in a transition program, an 18, 20-year-old program, where he is out working almost every day. I mean, he's still in school, so it's not paid employment, but he feels confident. She just said the confidence has just been remarkable. So he feels confident about going out into these jobs, whereas before he was much more nervous about doing that.
Hmm. That's great, and I'm
That's
sure there are hundreds of stories like that from the all the years that you've been doing this.
it's I mean, I see it. I see it in our organization. I see it at school. My profession. It's so important that we nurture, but keep those standards high and just believe in them.
Yeah.
And everyone just wants to be loved and valued. And same thing with special needs individuals.
Yeah. There's one of the things that like I've been doing with this podcast is trying to like, I think, go into different worlds, get out of the bubbles that we all live in. And one of the things that I think it becomes more and more apparent every time I have a conversation is that you get so fixated on the differences, and it's important to be aware of the differences, but I think it's even more important to at least start with zeroing in on like what you have in common and on all the things we all have. And like that's one of the things that you're saying is like there's a lot of stuff is just like basic human needs.
Humankind, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Let's be kind and make the world a better place. Let's make a difference and just love each other and treat each other with kindness and respect. And I think most of the parents know, or anyone who enters the program, I think they feel safe because they know their child would be treated that way. Like I treat them all like they're my own.
yeah.
I sometimes it's tough love. Sometimes it's not easy. It's a transition, but that's because I believe in them and I know they can do it.
Yeah.
And they're all worthy of that. They're just amazing. I'm very gifted to be able to do this, and that the parents entrust their children with us.
Yeah, and what you're saying is really the mark of. I mean, to be honest, it's not just like the mark and the I guess the mindset of a good leader. I mean, really, what you're saying is almost like how a general should think about their troops.
Yeah, you watch over them for sure. But you
Yeah.
want them to be able to perform on their own. When I say perform, I mean work performance, on the
Yeah.
stage performance. You want them to be able to do as much as you can on their own. To see the growth of them over the years, yeah, it's insane. I wish I over the years I had taken outtakes.
Yeah.
It would be so awesome.
Well, this year during your
Yes.
rehearsals.
Yeah, and just even the buddies I have, a lot of them started out with me as eighth graders and freshmen, and we have a lot of junior seniors now, and to see the maturity in them as well. Like
Yeah.
I don't really have to tell them, okay, get with the kids, spread out, they just know it now, and that's really awesome to see that maturity as well.
Yeah. It sounds like you could have like your own like YouTube channel and Instagram handle and TikTok of all the
Well, if
stuff.
I was a little more techie, but it keeps
Yeah.
me on my toes. I do know Google pretty well now,
Yeah.
but
Well, maybe there's a position for somebody for some high schooler out there is to be the TikToker.
yeah, that's exactly what we need to do. Yes.
Yeah.
To them, to do a lot of those things as well.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I've learned over the years. When you become more secure too, you're much more willing to ask for help. And I've learned how to delegate, and I don't have to be in charge of everything, in control of everything. The role of a good leader is to delegate. And so I know I can't do it all, especially now. I just can't do it all. I used to want
Yeah.
to be able to do it all, and I know I can't. And I am not going to be able to do this forever. So you got to bring people in, and I've got some great people. I could not do this without my daughter Nicole and our assistant director Angie Sandoukis, and
Hmm.
it's a family run business as well, and Angie's like part of our family, and my husband and my son-in-law, I mean, and my other son. It just, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just, it takes a village, and the parents are the ones who are lugging them to rehearsals, and our buddies. It takes a village. So
Yeah. Well, when is the Christmas show?
so glad you asked. It is Friday, December 9th at Union County Performing Arts Center in Rahway.
Okay.
And just be prepared, okay? Because we want you to be involved. People know when I teach too. If you come into my class to visit, I might just put you to work, all right? You might just have to come join in the fun. Expect to laugh, to cry, and to participate.
That's wonderful. And what's if folks want to find more information, would you have a website?
Yes, www.shiningstarsnetwork.org. And there's no better way to get into the holiday spirit than to come to our Christmas Spectacular. It's a lot
Yeah, I
cheaper than
bet.
Radio City.
I, you get a lot more closer to the action, a lot more participation in the action, and a lot more authentic.
Right. It's all about I want everyone to be a part of it.
Yeah,
And
that's
just to
great.
have a good time, to get that holiday spirit and just feel better leaving than you did when you came in.
Well, I feel like our whole conversation has been probably answers the question I'll ask you now, but I like to wrap up any of the podcast by asking people like what gives them hope at the end of the day. So like, what gives you hope at the end of the day?
The children's smiles, positivity, pure joy. And we could learn so much from this special population about what's really important in life. And may we all simulate that, because, life is short, and let's enjoy it to the best of our ability and to make the world a better place every day.
Yeah. Right. Perfect way to close. All right. Well, Sally, thank you so much for doing this, and for those who are listening, this is I think our third attempt at trying to record record this conversation. So, Sally, thank you for your
Persistence
patience.
is key, Michael.
Yes.
Right?
So thank you.
Well, thank you.
And thank you to our listeners, and may you go out and explore our country with curiosity, respect, compassion, and humility. All right. Take care, Sally.
All
Thanks
right.
so much,
Thank
and
you.
good luck with
Bye bye.
rehearsals.